Hello and welcome to Reddit Showcase number 154. I am your host, Lord Captain Commander Dunn, and I'm very pleased to welcome a set of guests. First off, let's bring on Mr. Carlson.
Hello, hello, hello.
How you doing?
I am doing great. The buses are free again in my neck of the woods.
Fantastic.
I
I
know.
love it. Fantastic.
And the governor's looking toward making it a permanent measure. Real encouraging things for us here in the People's Republic of Massachusetts, Stan.
Indeed. Indeed. Alrighty, now let us bring in our good friend Count Valerian.
Your intros are so drama, Blake Bleep. Burn, burn, shadow of my wings. Rah, rah.
Yeah, so
I mean,
No,
it's his show. He can do what he wants.
I wasn't complaining. I was just observing. You're not in a great mood today, are you, Blake Bleep?
did I say that? I just said, yeah. So, did I do it in an angry fashion? You've seen me angry. This is not me angry.
True. I didn't say you were angry. You're just a bit. Maybe you're doped out or something.
There are multiple people who would like to see me under the influence, but today is not that day, I'm sad to say.
Bother. Also, Massachusetts Stan.
Mm-hmm. The People's Republic of Massachusetts, Stan.
I beg your pardon. Yes.
Anyways, I believe we have someone else waiting to get in.
Oh.
Indeed. Let's bring.
I'm in! I finally got it done, guys!
You made it!
4,000 words! But it's finally fucking done!
Afternoon, by the way.
Oh, well, good afternoon, everyone. But I finally got it done. Holy shit, man. Like, I was literally wrapping it up just as the stream was starting. I finally got all the first chapter done, but it's probably going to end up being the first two chapters because 4,000 words. Sorry, 4,003 words.
Cool.
Oh my god. It's sorry, still got a bit of a cold, but it's so exciting. It's so invigorating and moralizing to finally have accomplished something for once.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I am probably going to have to use the restroom, though. I do not care about going first today.
I mean, if you're up for it, that's cool.
I mean, I have it open.
Yeah, probably better if I go later
Mhm.
because in like 20 minutes, I'm going to be eating lunch. So, and then and you know what that means.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Wisp, then me, and then Boomer, and then Lord Dunn.
Yep.
How's that sound?
I mean, if I'm
I
going
like
for it, we're going to have a bit of a late start because I need to use it real quick.
Right.
That's
Go
fair.
for it.
Well, I could start, I guess.
Okay, go for it.
Sounds like a plan. Let me in. Oh God, I know the feeling.
All right. Let me see if I can find where I stopped in the chapter. Here it is. So, if we recall, I guess I'm going for now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So, if we recall from last time, I only got about halfway through chapter 38. I remember I called it some working title that I wasn't particularly proud of. So I have changed the title of chapter 38 to A Practical Science of the Undead. And we will see how that figures into the title when Karna does a little more stuff later on, because as we recall, she just joined the Magisterium she left the Magisterium and joined the Consortium, and Shenna's not too pleased about that. And so we continue. Memories flooded unbidden into Shenna's mind. Karna's furious excoriation after she had spared Yannick was the most prominent, of course. But even before that, months of isolation, cold, lifeless lessons, and poisoned praise when praise even came at all. Shenna tried to drive back the thoughts, to tell herself that this was her domain and Karna was the stranger here, but to little avail. In the end, she had to force herself to enter the conference hall, and more out of a spiteful determination not to show weakness in front of Sebastian. Karna was chatting with Fryn in a far corner, sharing a spot or two of gossip on the present dismal state of the organization they had both abandoned. Shenna kept close to the back wall as she slipped unceremoniously into a seat in the opposite corner. She kept her head down and slouched low in the seat, waiting for more people to trickle into the conference hall to fill up before daring to sit up straight. Eventually, Angara entered, and the meeting began. First of all, some of you may have noticed a new face among our number this morning, said Angara. Allow me to introduce Karna, lately departed from the Magisterium. Thank you all for the warm welcome, said Karna, rising to her feet to address the hall. She was still wearing her black magister's robes. I'm sure it shall be a genuine pleasure to work with... She stopped suddenly when her eyes stumbled across Shenna in the corner. Her face twisted with frustration as she continued, working with all of you. And I'm sure we shall all find much profit in your skills and abilities, said Angara. First of all, I believe introductions are order. Why don't we start with... We've met, said both Shenna and Karna, neither of whom looked the other in the eye. Very well then, Angara shrugged. Moving on. Shenna seethed with resentment as the wave of introductions passed along the conference hall. What was Karna even doing here? The consortium was Shenna's domain, and that spiteful harridan had no business intruding where she was neither wanted nor needed. And finally, Karna said as the introductions concluded, I must introduce someone of my own. Stand up, Lysandra. Shenna's eyes at once snapped to the opposite side of the conference hall. There, hiding herself away in the corner just as Shenna had done, was a brown-haired, brown-eyed girl in white magisterium robes. She came unsteadily to her feet and made a quick, awkward bow to nobody in particular. Lysandra is my assistant, Karna continued. She assisted with my work and my research at the Magisterium, and she now accompanies me in my departure. Shenna noticed Lysandra's face tightening for a moment, as though she were suppressing a grimace. Now then, said Angara, I'm told that you are an expert in the workings of undead constructs. Expert is a poor word to describe it, said Karna. Why, I am the very architect of the discipline itself. I performed all of the research, I applied the results' practical usage, and I have gathered and compiled all the learning into a single unified body of knowledge. A practical science of the undead. Lysandra, why don't you show the book around? In the far corner, Lysandra got up and took up a book from the empty seat beside her and began showing it to the people as Karna continued to expound upon the marvelous applications of undead labor. Much of the principles were already known to the consortium from Shenna's work, of course, and Shenna felt a wicked surge of delight as Karna's magnificent declarations of a brand new world of possibility landed with a disappointing thud. For her part, Karna never once looked in Shenna's direction. Eventually, Lysandra made it to the other side of the conference hall with the book. As soon as the tome came within her grasp, Shenna snatched it open and quickly thumbed through the pages. Sure enough, there were all her edits completely unchanged from when she delivered them to Karna. She flipped all the way to the very end of the book, and there was her prototype schematic, exactly as she had proposed it. Karna had probably not changed a single word, not even to correct those few spelling errors that Shenna had not had the time to set right. I suspected as much, Shenna muttered, and handed the book back to Lysandra. Karna's presentation continued in the meanwhile, though Shenna paid little attention, most of it being a repeat of the subjects she had already presented months earlier. Shenna's mind was already moving on to more pressing matters, and as soon as the meeting was done, she immediately approached Angara and requested a word in confidence. Do you recall the agreement we made when I first joined the consortium? Shenna asked as soon as Angara's office door was closed behind her. Naturally, said Angara. Is there any point in particular you'd like to discuss? We agreed that I would control the construct operations, said Shenna. Angara nodded. I believe the exact phrasing was that you should have final approval over all decisions pertaining to constructs and construct operations. Yes, precisely, said Shenna. And now that... Naturally, this agreement shall no longer stand going forward, Angara said. Shenna blinked. But I was assured that... It was always a temporary measure, said Angara, untroubled by Shenna's protests. I mentioned that it would likely cause a bottleneck in the future, and such is indeed the result. The consortium needs to rapidly expand its operations, and it must do so at a considerably faster pace than you are presently capable of delivering on your own. I am not willing to risk the profitability of the consortium going forward merely to satisfy the demands of a single member. It's bad business. Shenna slumped back into the chair. Was this her fault? Was Angara punishing her for taking such a leisurely pace? Could she have done something different to avoid this? You are, of course, more than welcome to depart from the consortium if this is a problem, said Angara. No, Shenna blurted out before she could stop herself. She shut her eyes tight to center her thoughts and continued. No, it's not a... I can work with this. It's not ideal, but I can make do. Good. Don't let it affect your performance, said Angara. Was there anything else you needed to discuss? No, Shenna shook her head and left. Through the grand, luxurious corridors of the consortium headquarters, Shenna swept like a furious storm cloud. Karna, it seemed, was not to be gotten rid of so easily. And now Shenna would be forced to compete with Karna for projects. Karna would have the advantage in that regard. Not only did she have the greater experience, and fewer scruples besides, but now she could call upon Lysandra's labor. Doubtless Karna would dedicate herself entirely to the leisurely business of design and delegate the tedium of actually preparing the constructs to Lysandra. Shanna had to admit, it was a sensible arrangement, and one that she could not match. Shanna stopped in mid-stride. What was she thinking? Why, of course she could match it, and exceed it too. If Karna had an assistant of her own, Shanna would simply make another. She was already reviewing the broad principles in her head as she stepped onto Sebastian's pleasure barge, and by the time she got back to Clearwater, the design had almost fully taken shape in her mind. Shanna spent all afternoon drawing up the basic schematic, but that was the easy part. The true challenge was yet to come. She set a light dinner on the boil and pulled out her notes on construct theory, the very same notes that Karna had proudly presented as her own work. She flipped to the pages concerning her prototype and pored over the notes, preparing her mind as supper slowly simmered away in the kitchen. Once her belly was full, she set to work on the real substance of the project. She worked long into the night, stopping only briefly when Athanasia swooped down out of the rafters and landed atop her papers, probably wondering why she was working so late. Shanna gave the bird a few quick head scratches before lifting him back onto his sleeping place and returning to her work. The clock continued ticking in the corner of her study all night, chiming out hours that Shanna had never heard before. Still, she continued, driven not only by the desire for discovery, but also a frantic need to distinguish herself from Karna in the eyes of the consortium. That woman... Shanna was running dangerously low on nasty words with which to describe Karna, would doubtless try to seduce the consortium into using her unscrupulous practices, like employing executed criminals, to say nothing of competing with Shanna for precious bonuses. Finally, after hours of labor, it all came together at last. Shanna leapt to her feet and punched the air in triumph. She'd done it! Here was the design for a construct that could create and prepare other constructs, and a library of symbols to describe how each new construct would be prepared. All Shanna needed to do was place a list of those symbols before this construct, and it would prepare more constructs to those exact specifications. Even a single construct like this would increase Shanna's production capacity dramatically. And it's all mine. Shanna grinned as she gathered up the papers into a sheaf and tucked them inside a small folder. This was her masterpiece, her very own practical science of the undead to match the plagiarized work that Karna had presented as her own. And Shanna would be keeping this development entirely to herself. Even if Karna could scrape together enough humility to ask, she would receive nothing. It was a fitting payback for her treatment of Shanna for sparing Yannick's life. Shanna turned her gaze back to the east, where the light of a new day was slowly gathering beyond the distant plains. Yannick was out there somewhere, looking upon the same dawn. Was he safe? Had he found good people wherever he had found himself? It was futile speculation, of course. Shanna harbored no illusions that she would ever see Yannick again. Still, she could not help but wonder what he had made of that second chance at life she'd given him. Shanna had barely enough time for a quick breakfast before Sebastian arrived to collect her. She deliberately kept her arm in an awkward position as she sat. She was determined not to humiliate herself by letting Sebastian see her nod off before she arrived at the workshop. And that's the end.
And so we had built a machine that will create more machines to fight the machine. An endless Ouroboros of innovation and destruction. Holy fuck. What have you done, Shanna?
Yeah, that was my reaction. I'm not sure that's such a good idea to create what might possibly. Well, I guess the constructs can't think, so they can't. But
No,
they
that's
can,
exactly the problem with it. You see, everybody thinks that the problem. Nobody ever really thinks about what is the actual problem with an artificial intelligence that does exactly what it's programmed to do. It is that it does exactly what it is programmed to do. It's irrational. It is incapable of rationality, incapable of contemplation or thought. It will simply do what it is programmed to do, and it shall continue doing so until its gears give out, until its frame is rusted, and until the heat death of the universe itself.
It's the broom from the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yep.
So essentially, because Shanna thinks she has this under control, but if somebody got that from her, they could do it, and they could have the construct create other constructs and get rid of her.
Exactly.
Well, of course,
she had replaced
someone
herself.
has to tell them what to make. Someone has to actually design the constructs.
You know, this whole allegory for automation has truly spiraled out of control. One may say that it is officially caught up with the present. Maybe even going a little past it. Good job, Mr. Commissar.
I have mentioned, I believe I've mentioned a couple times already that the that construct theory, as it's called in this in the book, is basically the fantasy version of computer science and algorithm design.
Well,
and I couldn't find a place to slip it in yet here, but Shanna actually cut quite a few corners when doing the library of symbols, and I might pepper in some of those things, so it's actually going to result in some inefficiencies further on down the line.
The jealousy and envy of one woman has officially changed irreversibly and quite possibly doomed all of humanity.
Well, you know, the more we learn about stuff, we learn that the problem is not so much artificial intelligence as it is natural stupidity.
Yes, because everybody is so caught up in progressing forward and doing what they can do that they never stop to think, should we do this?
Indeed.
Yeah. Should we clone humans? The answer, of course, is no, but hey.
Should we make an artificial intelligence that is capable of applying the principles of engineering to itself, contemplating upon its own failures and shortcomings, and designing solutions to its own inadequacies?
I mean, as long as we clearly mark when it posts on DeviantArt, I'm fine with that. Okay.
So
agreed.
Imagine constructs doing these weird AI pictures and stuff.
You know, I mean, that's the thing that's really disappointing to me about modern AI. You know, it was sold as this idea that we're going to get the robots to handle all the tedious jobs so that you can actually focus on, making art and making music and stuff that actually makes your life better. But now it turns out the robots are the ones that are drawing all the pretty pictures, and we're stuck here doing those actual jobs that we said the robots were going to do. What the hell, man?
Yeah.
I've sold a goddamn goods. I have.
I can remember when AI was like this weird futuristic dream that people were like, oh, an AI happens, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, and then it actually came and it's like kind of boring.
Yeah. Everyone thinks, it's like this Frankenstein's monster, and people forget that, the reason, Frankenstein's monster became a monster was because of the people around him.
The meme is, Frankenstein's the monster. no, the Frankenstein wasn't a monster. He was the doctor. And then the high IQ people, Dr.
No,
Frankenstein
Frankenstein
was
was
the
the
monster.
Oh yeah.
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 Anyway.
actually, I tracked down a really good public domain audiobook of Frankenstein, and I gave it a listen on a really long train journey about a year ago. And man, you can tell that thing was written by a teenager. There is so much angst.
Paragon?
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
the original YA.
possibly.
I'm not sure how old is. I'm not sure how old Victor Frankenstein was in the book.
I'm pretty sure it is Victorian era. So
Well, it's pre-Victorian, wouldn't it?
possibly.
It's
Anyway, I just love the
1820
joke
something.
that
Regency era. Yeah.
I just love the joke that hey, oh my God, AI, you're finally here. You could do all these things. What are you going to do? It's like, best I could do is give you this poorly drawn hand.
Yeah.
And also,
That's it.
I'll make up facts that are verifiably not true and never check.
Also, I'll just go in and plagiarize.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're running out of actually. Yeah, I think something like that, 1818, something like that. There's actually multiple different versions of Frankenstein. There was an updated version in 1823, I think, that added a couple things and sort of sanitized it for Regency opinions at the time, and just put the silly little lady back in her place.
Quite right.
And so
too.
academics very much prefer the 1818 version. Because lest we forget, Mary Shelley's her mom was Mary Wollstonecraft, who was one of the proto-feminist writers.
There were there were quite a lot of great authors of the time who were also women. Very interesting that.
The Brontes, Jane Austen.
Yeah, she comes along a few years after that.
Shadiversity AI art. His AI art wasn't that bad, actually.
Well, because he put extraordinary amount of effort to make it slightly better than the average slop, but slop it still is. And all I had to say about that is, Shad, and all that time you could have spent learning how to make the AI do what you wanted to do, you could have just learned how to draw.
I don't know.
Or you could have commissioned someone to do it.
Oh yeah, like I did over here.
There's tons of artists who want for like work. Track someone down and drop some money in their lap and say, hey, could you paint me something here?
Yeah, I mean, where do you think I got all these profile pics from? These are all commissioned art of the characters, and I've known the artist for a very long time.
You guys just aren't with the wave of the future. That's all. The wave of the future is do it with have stupid robots do rubbish.
Yes, his brother is in fact an artist. It is you could see his secondhand embarrassment whenever Shad talks about AI art skill.
Yeah. Also, he had this thing about. Also, the funny thing with Shad was he's getting all upset because this lady in the film had pants.
I'm sorry, what?
The lady in the film had pants. It was some. What was
Which film?
Super Mario, I think.
I'm sorry. Almost all the women in my writings wear pants.
Well, my mother wore pants before I was born, and I'm not young. So,
it is notable when they wear a skirt.
Yeah, it's kind of but this is before I was born, and I'm not young.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
yeah.
Anyways.
Who should
So
go
that's
next?
anyways, that's the concept taken care of. Did anyone have anything to say about like the actual writing? Because I have to admit, I'm not particularly proud with how this thing flowed. It took me.
Well, you conveyed the information that you wanted to convey quite succinctly. We can easily read the feelings and expressions of the characters. We understand what's going through their head. It was, I guess you could say, it was a little trite, a little tropey, but at the same time, it was competent. It did what it needed to do. It conveyed its meaning quite well. My impression of the characters, however, obviously, Karna is being portrayed in a very, very negative light, as we are seeing it through Shenna's perspective. And, well, I must have missed it, but Karna apparently stole Shenna's work. It is now plagiarizing it and presenting it as her own, which I have to wonder, how the hell did nobody catch that? Like, nobody in the setting caught that.
Well, the idea behind it was that Karna was basically. So we know that. So we're all aware that Karna was basically the person who taught Shenna how to work with constructs. And she had a whole bunch of notes that she basically dumped in front of Shenna while she was still a student at the Magisterium, and Shenna sort of organized the notes and brought a sense of order to them.
So her work
basically cleaned them up into a proper book. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think so that clarifies quite a bit.
Yes.
So Karna going to what happens when they actually what happens when they actually converse with each other for the first time ever since they left? That's going to be a tiny bit awkward, I imagine. Maybe not. Maybe.
I don't know if that is actually going to happen.
Interesting.
I've got something planned for Karna in the not too distant future.
May I make a few observations?
Go ahead.
I find it quite ironic that Shenna, who wrote a book based upon the works and teachings of Karna, is getting all flustered up about Karna plagiarizing her work when her work is based off of hers. I also find it quite amusing that her name is Karna, as a referring to carnis, meat, flesh, and she works with, well, flesh puppets.
Oh yeah, that was deliberate.
I could tell. It's very apparent.
Mm-hmm.
I actually quite like it whenever you can easily see the intent behind the character and their whole. There's like a running theme between their name and their role in the story. I understand people joke in 40k about Ferris Manus, who has iron hands, who is leader of the Iron Hands, whose name means Iron Hands, but at the same time, it is also very amusing. I like it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I will. When I'm going through my edits, I'll definitely go and clarify the nature of Shenna's portion of the authorship on that book.
Well, to be fair, though, I am missing a great deal of context as I am coming in over here and just seeing this chapter in isolation. So it's entirely possible you don't need to clarify that within the chapter itself, because it might have already been very clear in a previous chapter.
Well, still, it's always worth an extra look at these things.
Fair enough.
All right, I think that's probably me done. Whis, you ready for us?
I'm gonna have to collect myself a little bit, but I suppose, yeah, I may as well get it done and over with. I do want to note there is a very, very excellent break point within the chapter that I could stop at because it is, again, 44,000 words long, which is perhaps the length of 2 chapters rolled into one. I'll just go ahead and when we get to the break, I'll simply stop and ask if you would like me to continue going.
All
Does
right.
that sound good?
Yeah, sounds fine.
All right. So, last time I was over here, I presented this chapter. However, again, it was after much pressure, and I did not believe the chapter to be ready yet. I do believe, however, that it is adequate enough to share. And even then, I'll just go ahead and read it and see how it goes. So I'm not going to go ahead and recap anything because, frankly, the context of the prologue isn't really necessary over here. So I'll just go ahead and simply start. 23 years ago. Location, Obscura System. Planetary time, 7:23. Vessel, Sparrow-class corvette, Sanguine Dagger. It was pitch black, near perfect darkness. The air was humid and thick, the forest trees tall and imposing, and the vines hung from them like 1,000 limp serpents. Yet, through all the chirping and chattering, Valerie could hear herself panting. She sprinted, running as fast as she could, yet her legs moved at the pace of a slow walk. Most of her gear had been shredded long ago, the scars replacing them. Beads of sweat kept running down her face, her eyes tearing up whenever a droplet found its way there. She could hear her voice, seeming to come from everywhere all at once. "Val! Hold on!" she shouted, readying her sidearm and struggling to speed up. Then something moved and tripped Valerie over. She stumbled and fell face first onto the muddy ground, just barely cushioning her fall with her arms. Valerie shuddered, the cold sludge coating her as the rain finally fell from the clouds above. Her throat was thrashed, her body bruised, but she could still hear her calling out, her voice louder. She had to be close. So, the mauled Valerie got back to her feet, groaning and gnashing her teeth as her sore form stood up and kept running, cutting through the vines and the branches without care for the minor cuts they left behind until she could see the clearing. Then she froze. "Valerie?" She gasped, jolted back to life. Valerie found herself staring at a dark ceiling, barely illuminated by a warm light. She laid flat on something, wrapped in a soft and warm material. It wouldn't be until Valerie glanced down at herself that she realized she was still in bed. She breathed a sigh of relief, hearing her veins pulsing, a thumping in her chest, and then a soft voice whispering to her, "Valerie?" The scarlet-eyed woman blinked, her gaze darting to her side when she saw a woman of ebony complexion laying next to her. The woman's long white hair slipped over her radiant face, but she could still see the worry in her golden eyes. "Are you all right?" The black-haired Valerie swallowed. "Yeah, was just a bad dream." The ebony woman's expression became pouty, her lower lip still quivering. "It didn't look like just a bad dream." Valerie exhaled, taking deep and long breaths. "It was, Dove." Dove's lips sagged into a frown. She sat on the bed, folding her hands in her lap while Valerie pushed off, propping her back off the bed with her elbows. She cringed, gritting her teeth together as her back and neck strained. She massaged the sore spot when when Dove's soft voice peeped again. Was I in it? Valerie blinked and became still. She trembled, a chill running down her spine and goosebumps forming across her light olive skin as she remembered the "You can tell me, Val." Her eyes darted back to Dove's. Despite the somber look in them, the white-haired phoenix kept a warm, welcoming smile. I'm here for you. Always. Valerie's heart sank, her chest expanding and contracting with every breath. The rush and panic were washing over her mind and setting in. Yet, she swallowed it down and kept the confidence in her voice. It's fine, love. Besides, you remember what Sienna told us, right? Dove's white eyebrows knitted together, seeming to struggle to recall the raven's warning. Let not fear control you, lest you make your fears a reality. Valerie smiled. Close enough. Dove took a deep breath and let out a sigh. Okay, she muttered before locking eyes with Valerie. Guess you can always tell me when you're ready. The scarlet-dyed woman gazed back into Dove's, a warmth building within her. Dove began to lean in when a sudden tone rang out. Her gaze immediately darted to Valerie's left, and Valerie herself peeked over her shoulder, spotting a holographically displayed clock set next to some red candles. She read the time to herself, squinting at it. 7:30? Weren't we supposed to arrive in system by 11? We were. Dove's posture slumped. Well, too wide awake to get some beauty sleep now. May as well get ready, she muttered, shuffling off Valerie in the bed. Dove walked over to the dresser on the other side of the room, cracking open one of the drawers and rummaging through it. Come on, Val, let's get some clothes on. Valerie propped herself up and raised an eyebrow. She glanced down at herself and smirked. Really? In here I thought you liked seeing me like this. Dove froze in place, her hands still in the cabinet drawer. She peeked back at the bare Valerie, her cheeks flushing red as she smiled sheepishly. Yeah, but we're going to meet the planetary governor today. We gotta look presentable. Valerie scoffed, putting on a pompous voice as she replied, Well, why should a goddess have to lower herself to the garbs of mere mortals? Surely she should be able to present herself however she so pleases. Dove covered her mouth, trying to hide her laughter. Okay, Miss Olympia, she replied while giggling. Then you wouldn't mind walking around without any support, would ya? Dove pulled out a black sports bra from the drawer and presented it. Valerie scowled at her, her mouth open and ready to snap back with a snarky remark, but the corners of her lips sagged. She felt the tug on her shoulders and a strain in her back. Valerie grimaced and hung her head. Fine. Toss it over, she groaned, extending an open hand. Dove smiled, throwing the article of clothing over to her, and Valerie caught it mid-flight. She took a look at the undergarment, her brows pulled together as she inspected it. Wait a second, this looks a little... She checked the inside, reading the size before looking back at Dove. Hey, I think this one might be yours. The white-haired phoenix, still rummaging through the dresser, paused. She peeked back at Valerie, squinting at the undergarment, and then scoffed. Nice try, Vals, but mine's always white and yours is black, remember? Valerie raised an eyebrow, trying to restrain her smirk. Really? Then how come this one's exactly 8 sizes too small? Dove blinked, her cheeks flushing red. She dug through the drawer again, pulling out another with scarlet markings. The white-haired phoenix glanced at Valerie, who kept her smug expression, even as a mischievous look came across Dove's face. Then, suddenly, something slammed into Valerie's face, forcing her to flinch and seal her eyes. She placed a hand on her face, feeling the soft fabric before peeling it off and inspecting it. Dove, still appearing satisfied, crossed her arms. "Better?" she asked. Valerie chuckled, fixing her hair and looking up at her. "Better." She pushed against a mattress and slid off the bed and walked over to the onyx dresser. Valerie pulled out a pair of fingerless gloves, extending past her wrists, underwear, socks, and sweatpants, all in her obsidian and scarlet colors. She slipped them on and sat on the deep crimson bed. Then she put on the gloves and tightened them. Finally, she stared at her top, the corners of her lips curling down. Then the pull, the strain. It was incessant. Valerie glanced down at herself, her head lightening. Wait, are those stretch marks? She quivered, staring at the faint lines on her chest. I'm old. I'm getting old. Valerie swallowed, perishing the thought and putting it into the back of her head. She finally finished getting dressed, only needing her boots. Her gaze wandered back to Dove, watching her frantically search the nightstand's drawer. "Is everything okay, Dove?" The golden-eyed phoenix froze, then perked up. Yeah, it's fine. You can go on without me." Valerie cocked an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "I'm okay with waiting." Dove's voice became jittery. No? No, that's okay. I'll be at the armory soon." Valerie gave a half frown and shrugged. "Okay," she muttered, standing up. "See you soon, love." "Laters," Dove waved while Valerie got her shoes on and exited her room. The pod hissed open, the smooth cylindrical doors parting to unveil the onyx-colored plates beneath, polished such that Valerie could see her reflection on the faceless helmet. The Mark VII Phoenix pattern armor was a sight to marvel at, always inspiring awe in Valerie. Even decades after the Second Cosmic Crusades ended, it remained unmatched in performance and quality. Hers, in particular, was reinforced at the breastplate, pauldrons, shins, and arms, hallmarks of the Warden configuration. But to suit her, it was also modified with additional servos, an enhanced spinal column, and auxiliary sanguithist power systems. She smiled, her arms crossed as she felt a tingle in her chest and running down her back. Her eyes met those of her reflections, staring longingly into them. She glanced at an exposed sanguithist gem, its purple glow shining against the armor. The smile melted away from Valerie's face as the gem's light illuminated it. "One day, I won't need to borrow your power, Mama." She gazed at the faceplate. "One day, this suit, this armor, it will be me, and I will be it." She swallowed, shuddering as her memory returned to the nightmare. She could still see it, the beast standing in the clearing, its tall, lanky form, its beady eyes, and its grin full of vicious fangs. Valerie's hands tightened, her body tensed. "And until that day comes, I won't waste it. I won't back down. I won't let anything overcome me. I will— Oi! Valerie flinched and gritted her teeth. She heard a chuckle and peered over her shoulder. Just behind her, a woman of vanilla complexion with cherry red hair stood, laughing. "Ah, you should have seen the look on your face, Vowels. Never thought it'd be that easy to scare our fearless leader." Valerie's eyes twitched, but she put on a smirk and snapped back. Never thought you'd resort to cheap tricks just to get one over, Sheila. Sheila waved a hand dismissively. Yeah, cheap tricks or not, I still got ya. Valerie turned around, keeping her chin up high. All you've done is tested my reflexes, and I say they were still working just fine. Sheila smirked, placing her hands on her hips. Oh yeah? Or maybe I just proved you're oddly jumpy today, wouldn't you say? Ahem. Another voice sounded, drawing both of the women's attentions to a slightly shorter lady. Her skin was like cinnamon, her hair a bright vermilion, and her eyes a beautiful sunset orange. In all fairness, Sheila, wouldn't anyone get scared if you snuck up behind them? She asked, her voice soft and sweet. Sheila snarled, swinging an arm in the woman's direction. Oi! Who asked you anyway, Sonny? Sonny's cheeks flushed red, her head sinking into her shoulders. No one. I just thought... Could you guys cut it? Another voice rang out, startling all three of them. Valerie blinked, her gaze darting to another woman of similar complexion to her own, with unassuming hazel eyes and an almost smoky voice in dark brown hair. Aren't you supposed to be getting ready? Valerie's eyes met hers, baffled and befuddled. When did you get here, Miriam? A clunking sounded in the bluish-gray chamber, drawing Valerie's eyes to her love. The white-haired dove stood tall and proud, her hair sleek and smooth with bangs over her forehead and makeup that accentuated her features. She looked radiant and beautiful, an angelic light that beamed from the heavens and shone on the now bashful Valerie. Then she blushed, realizing everyone in the room could see her. Her gaze darted between them, Sheila, Sonny, and Miriam. Her expression shifted to an indignant scowl. Well, you all heard the woman. What are you doing standing there? Get suited up. Without a second thought, the others approached their respective pods, the hatches hissing open to unveil their suits and weapons. Valerie tapped the panel beside hers, leveling the armor with the floor. The carapace opened up for her, the boots separating from the rest of the armor as to let her step into them. The servos of the auto-armorer whirled to life and equipped the individual plates to her, the latches locking and clanking into position, starting with the undersuit. Valerie exhaled, her nerves settling and the anxiety quelling as one onyx-colored piece of armor after the other locked into place. The weapons rack whirled around her, presenting a selection of ranged and melee weaponry to her. Hey, Vals! Shirley's voice boomed from her station. What kind of mission we doing anyway? Valerie smirked. What's this? The professional isn't ready for her next big assignment? Hey, you know I'm always ready, you bloody wanker. It's just, she didn't read the briefing, Sonny chirped to Sheila's chagrin. She only skimmed through it. Valerie's grin widened, pulling out her sidearm from its rack. Well, as you know, Sheila, the local PDF has been running into some issues with the local wildlife. They reached out to the matriarchs, our mums, to help out. So they sent us, the professionals, to help them out. Sheila snorted, glaring at her. Man, bet you were waiting a long-ass time to chew me out like that. Valerie checked the safety on her heavy revolver, Helga, before slotting it away. You could say that. Sheila scoffed and followed up her question. And why send us? Surely a bunch of bears ain't nothing to the colonials. What kind of planet is this anyway? Valerie rolled her eyes. Clueless as ever, she thought to herself. Obscura. It's a tropical world with high levels of humidity and heavily forested. Dove's eyes widened. Obscura? Is it not the world your mom took during the Second Cosmic Crusades? Valerie raised an eyebrow. Yes? What about it? Isn't that planet extremely dangerous? The records showed an abnormally high casualty rate for the Phoenixes. And that's to say nothing of the losses that the human auxiliaries faced. Valerie stepped out, still adjusting her onyx gauntlets. Yes, but ever since Mama took the planet, she put a halt to the wildlife experimentation that the Dominion was running. So, Obscura has since been considered safe for colonialization. Dove's concerned expression didn't disappear, even as she stepped out in her pearl-white armor, accented with sunny yellows. Valerie glanced back at the armory rack, noting the melee weapons at her disposal, and spotting a halberd. The violet axe head was almost Wait a second. That doesn't make any sense. Why does it say that over? One moment. The axe head was of a violent color, and the point where the spearhead, axe, and hook met was also decorated with a star. Valerie looked at it, almost nostalgically. You know, it's been a long time since I last brought that with me. Dove raised an eyebrow. The halberd? Valerie nodded. A gift from my mama. She always wanted me to have it since I had the build for it. Dove blinked. Wait, your mom used that thing? The Twilight Phoenix? Famed for her elegance and grace? Used that? Valerie chuckled. Exactly why she loved using it so much. Someone with her stature and feminine charm using a weapon as brutal and blunt as that. But what most people didn't expect was just how tough she was. She wiped the smile from her face, recalling the day that Maria gave the starfall to her. Valerie exhaled, her tone softening. Almost makes me want me to take it one more time. Come on! Sheila's voice boomed out as she stepped forward in her red and white armor and stood beside Dove. We're going into a jungle, aren't we? Not a whole lot of space to be swinging around something like that. She paused, a grin appearing on her. Besides, wouldn't want you to get overcumbered, eh? At least more than you already are. She winked, putting a slighted look on Valerie's face. Dove shared in Valerie's offense, elbowing Sheila. Ah! What was that for? Dove's expression became sterner, and Sheila finally seemed to take the hint. Valerie smirked, looking around the chamber, seeing Sunny in her sunset orange plates, and Miriam in her smoky black. All right, team, we ready? Yes, ma'am, they replied in unison. Then, with her chin held high in a beaming smile, Valerie gave her first orders of the day. All right, Vals gals, move out! And that is where I will pause for now. Anyway, we still have approximately about 1,400 words left in this chapter.
Yeah, I think this is probably a fair place to stop, I guess. If that's how much he got left.
Yeah. I also noticed that while reading through this, there was quite a lot of things that was difficult for me to say. Maybe an excessive usage of descriptions as well. But I'll go ahead and save my own thoughts for later. I am not here to hear them. I'm here to hear yours.
Well, I do like the hints of the larger universe. You know, really get a sense that there is a lot more to this world that we're not seeing. You know, the reference to the Second Cosmic Crusade in particular, I did like that. That's, you know,
I have to say that it is plural. because there were a series of wars that predate all of this that was called the First Cosmic Crusades, also known as the Wars of Extinction by humanity. But what happened was that there was a second series of conflicts that also exploded out that were later renamed the Second Cosmic Crusades, kind of like how we, I don't know, retroactively called the 100 Years' War the 100 Years' War, despite it being a series of conflicts that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't call it the 100 Years' War at the time, needless to say.
Just like how they didn't call it World War One, but we called it that because there was a second.
Yeah, but they called it the Great War back in the day.
I still call it the Great War.
Interesting.
I like the name.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts?
I definitely get the strong personality coming through.
Yeah, some of the phraseology is a little awkward in places. It's probably going to need some tidying up here and there.
Yeah, because constantly referring to the color of characters' eyes and hair is.
People do weird things sometimes.
Yeah, it gets a bit excessive in some places. I wanted to try to be a little more experimental with this round of writing.
Fair enough. Yeah, perish the thought. That's actually a subjunctive, not an imperative, which is why he's making the comment. Perish the thought is like, let the thought perish. It's like long live the king. You don't say living the king, or you wouldn't usually anyway. That's why he's making that comment. Am I right, bleep blip?
Yep. So perishing, I don't even know if, perishing, you only use that in the most literal sense.
I'm not very attached to that particular phrase, so I am more than happy to remove it. Besides, I think I already conveyed exactly what she was doing quite well when I said she moved it to the back of her head. Also, slight correction. It is spelled the word valor and then with a Y at the end. I did not know that was how you spelled Valerie at first. And frankly, I decided to stick with this version of the name because, well, I found it quite suiting, quite fitting.
So Valoury.
Yep.
Cool.
So not like Valery. Like proper Russian man's name, Valery.
Nope, not at all.
He's very strange.
Valery Gergiev.
Yeah, but I thought it was a pretty cute idea. Like, she's named after the word courage, after the word that meant courage and bravery in the face of overwhelming odds.
Yeah.
So, as far as editing was concerned, well, the actual content of what happened, does anybody have any comments on it?
I mean, it is difficult to tell, what is what's an actual mistake in the text and what is just, usual, fluffing while on stream.
So nothing comes off as bothersome over here. Not even the sharp and hard cut from Valerie's bedroom to the armory.
Not particularly.
Not particularly, no, but yeah, I mean, maybe you don't need much. You don't need to go on about their trip there necessarily. They went to the armory is probably good enough.
All right. And let's see over here. So what is your impressions of the characters so far, since we are going to be stuck with these 5 women for quite a while?
They smirk a lot.
Well, this is true. Both Sheila and Valerie have very similar but conflicting personalities, almost like a battle of the egos between them.
Yeah. We did catch that, but
There
And
does seem to be a certain degree of pettiness at play.
This is true. I was actually concerned about that.
how old are these ladies? Like in their 20s?
Yup.
Yeah, sound about right.
Valerie is actually the oldest out of all of them. She's 27. The minimum age, I think, for a character that I would have in this would be 21.
Yeah.
No younger. For very, very obvious reasons.
Yeah. This is an adult. Well, not exactly adult, but you know what I mean. This is for grown-ups.
They're young adults and they're in the military.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You're not going to see any 18-year-olds over here. You're not going to see any 17-year-old anime characters who are jacked as all hell.
No, thank God. What do you think? Bleep people up? Oh, he's muted.
I think in terms of the characters, the dynamic is fine. I don't necessarily know if they're gonna be I think they're a little bit too catty in public, but that's just me.
Well,
In a military, you usually beat cattiness out of them and have a more, I guess mature form of intimidation.
Well, this is the future military. Maybe they've relaxed their opinions in that regard a little bit.
To be fair, I'm using the term military very, very loosely. Because technically, this military is smaller than a company in modern standards. Because it isn't so much like it's a military, more like a team of superheroes. So
Didn't necessarily get that. You might want to make that a little bit clearer.
So no commanding officer, no I sir.
well, there is certainly a very definitive hierarchy over here. Like the fact that the team is named Val's Gals should probably convey that quite. Yes, that was not just me having her be cheeky. She literally named the team that.
I do like that.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose I could tone it down with some of the characters because I was a little concerned that it might be just a little overbearing. But however, I suppose it does make for a great sharp contrast when they meet the Planetary Defense Force and you see just exactly what kind of people they are. I mean, I don't feel the need to read the second half of this chapter precisely because I barely made any changes to it since last I presented it. So all of the content from last time I presented it is basically the same. I just cleaned it up a little.
Okay, I think I remember that when they met the people in charge of the planet.
Yeah, they met the Planetary Defense Force, who are a bunch of poorly... Yes. They basically met a bunch of poorly trained Spartans on the planetary surface. And I mean, the Spartans are the Spartans from Halo, not the historic ones. And yeah, the planetary governor was actually a really, really chill person who understood full and well that he is talking to basically goddesses. So he's in no place to be talking smack to them. Any other comments? Any other complaints?
Not yet. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Also, Dunn, do you think I've addressed the point of criticism last time where there didn't seem to be a story? Like, there wasn't any direction that the story was going.
I still am not sure I know where the story is going.
Really? All right.
I think you might want to make the conflict a little bit more clear. Because with something like Ender's Game, you clearly understand Ender is going up against the Formics, and the plan is to make it so that he becomes a great general in order to fight against the Formics, or the Buggers in this case. Buggers, as the case may be. With what was it? Another good book series, pretty good book series that's sci-fi. I guess an example would be the Demon Calabra. You know immediately what the stakes are. You know immediately what the good guys are trying to prevent themselves from happening to them. In this case, I feel like I don't know who the antagonist is. I don't know what the conflict is going to be, and I'm not 100%. I get if I think the character work is pretty good, but I have no idea what exactly I'm rooting for here.
All right. I suppose that's fair. I mean, so far, right now, the conflict is, as far as the characters are aware of, is that they've been called in to basically do some pest control on this planet. They don't quite know the nature or the extent of the conflict, and thus far, the most that the audience is aware of is what Valerie saw in her nightmare, which, it's a nightmare. Not a whole lot to go off of. But I suppose chapters 2 and 3 will make the conflict very, very clear. Hopefully.
Yeah. You could add maybe a little bit to their dialogue about it. Not too much, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, aside from all that, I do want to note everything I had just read today was either prepared a while ago, but the armory scene in particular was today. That was what I spent this morning agonizing over, just making that a thing, having that exist. So I'm glad it worked.
Existence is good.
Yeah, it's there now. We have a scene.
Yeah.
I have the scene now. It's written down. I can go back and edit it whenever the hell I want.
Yeah. Way to go.
Thank you.
And
Congratulations.
James
Thanks.
Knight says, James Knight is a critique of your British accent.
If you're going to British accent, you gotta sound a bit more. She's Aussie. She's a friggin' Aussie. God damn it.
Yeah, convict. She's probably a convict.
Her mother is British. But I thought that, wouldn't it be funny if her daughter was an Aussie? Because Australia used to be a colony of Britain.
Yeah.
Oh shit, does that mean that one of her daughters has to have an American accent now?
Oh God, no. I mean,
Oh God, does one of them have to have a Canadian accent?
Yep, don't forget New Zealand. You can imitate Future Me for that one.
I didn't know you were a New Zealander.
No, not me. Future me, capital F, capital M. Hello, future me, the YouTuber guy.
Oh. I mean, I was thinking Timora Morrison for that.
That's probably a good idea. The guy who
God.
played Boba Fett.
What an
and,
absolute
Jango
G.
Fett.
Like, absolutely freaking love that man. He's a treasure.
He's just a simple man trying to make his way in the galaxy.
He voiced my childhood. I don't think you understand. I will never not hear Delta 38 whenever I hear his voice.
I don't even know what that is.
Or the freaking 501st Journals. Sorry, that was Republic Commando. My as my little bro would say, my autism is showing.
Never played it.
It's a great game. Old, but a gold. But a goldie. God damn it! Here I'm missing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we can move on now. I've taken up too much. I've taken up enough time.
Mr. Sherman thinks that B movie shill practical effect is 100% better than CGI.
Depends.
So be sure to keep that in mind when you revise your chapter.
Oh, I'll be sure. I'll be sure. No, don't worry. The second, if this ever gets adapted, the armor's going to be a practical set, because I think it would look cool.
Cool.
All right.
Should I present the second half next time, by any chance?
What's the question? Sorry.
Should I present the second half of this chapter next time?
Yeah, sure. You sound great.
Right.
Sure, why not?
Awesome. Thank you, James. Thank you. Iconic quote.
So what I remember about the size of the Empire was how quiet it was. The rise of the Empire, I mean, sorry.
What I remember about the rise of the Empire was how quiet it was.
So
You don't see it, but I'm smiling. Like, ear to ear.
you sound in a good mood.
Well, yeah, I feel very, very accomplished today.
Yeah. So I'm still eating. How much longer will I be eating? Quarter hour, maybe?
Oh.
So I don't know. It might not matter what the chapter I'm reading. It might not actually matter whether I'm eating. Because I'm going to be reading something a little bit different this time to what I usually read. So it might or might not matter whether I'm eating. But if you think that would be a problem, we can have Blight Bleep read something.
Oh, yeah. Also, I forgot. I'm not sure if anybody caught this. Sorry, but yeah, Sheila refers to Valerie as vowels,
How does it
as in
spell?
AEIOU.
Yeah, I was wondering too. It sounded like they were saying vowels, but I thought there was a weird way of pronouncing vowels, so I wasn't sure.
Nope, she just straight up calls her vowels.
Okay, that works. AEIOU and sometimes Y.
Yes.
So, does Blight Bleep want to read, or do people want to read while I'm munching? Me to read while I'm munching away?
Well, I wouldn't want you to be uncomfortable or inconvenienced.
I'm not fussy.
I can read, I suppose.
All right.
Okay, so summary up to this point. The Azrith are now coming towards meeting back up together, at least a couple of them. Excuse me. And two of them are now stuck within a fortress that is under siege, and two others are coming to try and relieve their friends from the siege. And we're now coming back to the besieged, waiting on the relief force to come. All right. The second night of the assault felt as long as a year, Errant only halfway through. Kurafir could feel the exhaustion like a physical weight on her shoulders. Hour after hour of fighting the She was taking its toll on the two Uazrith. Amora had been working herself utterly ragged, orange eyes haggard and fingers shaking. How many minds had she felt die in the past few days? Kurafir didn't know if he had the fortitude to withstand something like that. Drawing on the power of his artifacts, Kurafir blasted the ground below the walls with ice, skewering the creatures moving toward the gates. The enemy scattered, some taking cover behind the ice shards, others simply retreating back into the cover of the houses. Have you fought any more of the druids? Have you found any more of the druids? He asked. No. Amora closed her fist on the handle of her axe and leaned against it. They backed up into the army and are hiding from my birds. They know you're using them as your eyes. Kurafir grunted. It was bound to happen. It's not your fault. I know that, Amora snapped. I just want to kill those bastards and their disgusting fish people allies. Good, Kurafir said approvingly. You're getting why we cannot ever get into these creatures. They deserve nothing. A swift death. Amora nodded. Her eyes glazed over. Then her eyes glazed over for a moment. Kamul is getting closer by the hour, she reported. He'll be here by evening tomorrow. So we hold till tomorrow. Kurafir raised his hand and closed his fist, destroying a volley of arrows that was flying down on the keep. Have you been dealing with their scouts? For several days, yes. Amora nodded. My Karamarn have fed well, leaving the bones near the camp so they can see who killed their scouts. They don't know that our reinforcements are coming. They might, if they have a scrying glass. Kurafir took a deep breath, but that's out of our control. We'll have to keep going for as long as we can. I feel so tired, Amora whispered, sitting up against the wall and closing her eyes. I feel like I'm wasting away no matter how much I'm eating. Those words were so close to his own state that it profoundly disturbed him. He knew that his form was rapidly diminishing as his amulet drew him more and more into the Umbriel. He might not suffer the same affliction as the poor souls that were transported out of Olympias, but there was still a cost to using the treasures. A different price, but price nevertheless. Soon, all that will remain would be his disembodied armor using his disembodied spirit using his armor as a casing. What is your story? Kurafir asked, drawing strength into him and sitting down next to his friend as the archers and siege engines began loosing their ammunition. Not much to tell. Amora looked down at her bracelet. I was a noble and brave for most of my life. Then when my father found out I could control animals, he threw me down a mine shaft. Then Kamul found me and saved me. From there, I helped him take control of a brave by acting as a spy master and saboteur. Huh. Kurafir pursed his lips. I am curious. When Mithrakal gave you the bracelet, you were able to walk for the first time in how long? A few years. Amora flexed her hands as if she were still experimenting with her range of movement. Still feels odd that I can move again. I always thought I'd be able to move I'd only be able to move in the mind of an animal. The thought of being that crippled horrified Kurafir to the degree that he shrank away from the motion. So now that you've gained in the bracelet, what are the differences you've seen? Stronger than I was before. Mora scraped her armored fingers against the stones, leaving long claw marks on the rock. My powers have become heightened to a degree that I would never have ever believed possible. It could maybe nudge one of those behemoths, let alone control several at the same time before. There's always an element of domination that comes with the artifacts. Durfear looked down at his own hand and the amulet shining on his chest with the dark light. I gained greater control over the spirits of the dead when I received mine. My sister was more of a warrior than a sorcerer, but what she was able to do was heightened by Mithrical's gift. My father gained greater abilities with it, all aspects of sorcery, while he bit his lip and then shook his head. It's no matter. Seems though your domination over beasts is the unique ability given by that bracelet. It just enhances what was already there, if I understand correctly. Mora rotated her hand, then hopped onto the battlements and perched there like a large bird, her cloak flapping like wings around her. She waved a hand, bracelet glowing as she drew on the dark power of the Umbriel. Shadows began writhing around the she and grasped onto them, causing them to choke and writhe before falling to the ground. You're learning, Durfear nodded in approval. Let's get back to the fight.
You appear to have muted yourself, Lord Inquisitor.
I am aware. Yes, I'm done. It's all finished.
Oh,
That's it?
I can read some more. There's only probably 2.5 pages, I suppose. But
I mean, if that was everything there was in there,
that was the only chapter. I don't know how long it was.
Not very long.
yeah.
Let's see. I stopped yapping at approximately 1:17. It is now 1:28.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can read a bit more if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 second. Allow me to close the door. My mother told me that my laundry was finished. So let me.
Okay.
Would you be better at closing the door when you open it? Thank you. Okay.
Black has been kindled.
Chapter 22, The Warlord. Kamul and Pharaoh watched from the Umbriel as the She and the Deep Ones spread through the first section of the city, besieging each of the fortresses throughout. We need to charge in soon, Kamul remarked as they flew back to their armory, making sure to watch for any evidence of scouts. The enemy is going to make it harder once they've entrenched in the fortress. If we smash into them from behind, especially now that they don't have the giant monsters to slow our momentum, we may have a chance. We're going to have to hit hard with us at the center to make sure that any She warriors that have powers met and to counter ours. And I need to reword that sentence. That's bad. Ferris said as they came out of the Umbriel and summoned their red-eyed horses. This is going to be hard fought, even with the element of surprise. We'll have to win decisively and quickly, or else we risk being embroiled in a lengthy fight that could result with us being caught from behind. And we'll turn toward the Byathan cavalry. We need to attack soon, or else we lose the advantage. Farah raised her hand and released one of the birds that Amora had given them. I'll coordinate with Kurfir and Amora to corral the enemy with a full-on counterattack. Hopefully they aren't totally exhausted, she promised, drawing her long, pale sword. I'll lead the Alintian cavalry in a charge with you. That way your cavalry can pick them off with horsebows and lances. Mul nodded and raised his closed fist, drawing on the power of the Umbriel to carry his voice to each of the soldiers without shouting it out for everyone to hear. Today, we do not fight against fellow humans, he declared, power rushing from him into his troops without making him tired. Instead, we fight against monsters that seek to destroy us, enslave our families, and leave nothing but a world of endless blood and horror. You didn't know all of that for sure, but the destruction of Olympius was a fairly good indicator of just how far these creatures wanted to go. With a hiss, his sword formed from smoke and appeared in his gauntleted hand. Will you follow me? He let Malfurion rear up, pawing the air with his ironclad hooves. The Breathen cavalry raised spears and swords, while the Elintian slammed fist to chest. Farron nodded to him and swung on her sword, aped her sword, then turned to right out in front of the heavy Elintian knights. Camul followed to stand next to her, then slashed his sword down as a signal. With a thunder of hooves, the Breathen soldiers charged forward, raising their horsebows and lowering lances. Give the light cavalry room to maneuver, Camul said calmly, enjoying the fact that he didn't have to pass orders throughout the army, but rather communicate directly to each man individually. Only charge when I give the order, and have half of them dismount and use their halberds and lances to form a forest of spears. Farah nodded and relayed the orders. Once she was finished, she made her own blade. Was finished. She swung. Finished. And she waited for Camul to give any further instructions. However, instead of waiting for his men to return, Camul stepped into the Umbriel and pulled himself to the mountain overlooking the enemy, giving himself a bird's eye view of the battle. From his vantage, he watched the Breathing cavalry start attacking the She and Deep ones. And he felt it would be best to wait a bit. The enemy was unprepared, for the army of horse archers and light cavalry beginning to harass their lines, so preoccupied were they with the fortress. Finally, the She recovered and sent cavalry forces to try and push back the Breathing cavalry, only to be attacked by the light infantry. He's slashing at them while the archers shot over the heads of their companions into the She, drawing them further away from the rest of the army. Come on, chase us. Camul clenched his fist and flew down to watch from a closer angle, waiting for the exact right moment as his men retreated through the mouth of the mountains. As both of his brazen soldiers and the She cavalry rounded the mountains, Camul drew his sword and flew back to the Elintian knights. Get ready, he called, summoning his horse and letting it rear. Farah nodded and rode beside him, sword held in a casual grip as she waited for his signal. With a loud thunder of hooves, the Breathing cavalry spread out in as long a line as they could, just as he'd instructed. The dismounted Elintian horsemen had moved their horses to the rear, then formed a tight formation with spears and halberds extended. The Breathing cavalry abruptly split, revealing the Elintians. Right as they split, the Breathing horse archers slew several shafts into the enemy, causing them to stagger right at the critical point. The momentum of the She's cavalry forced them onto the pikes and halberds, the long pole arms causing the horses to either crash into each other in their attempt to halt or die on the spear points of the Elintians. Now that everything was in place, Camul nodded to Farah, who rode to the flanks and led the Elintian cavalry into a charge. Transforming his sword into a lance, Camul rode toward his flank of the Elintian cavalry. Charge! He bellowed as he rode toward the She. Both his cavalry and Farah's horsemen smashed into the enemy's flanks and started pushing them into the well-prepared infantry. Instinctively, Camul braced himself for the impact of his lance against flesh, but as the lance smashed into the chest of one of the She, it passed right through and hurled the creature off its mound. Surprised at how little of an impact he felt, Camul quickly adjusted himself and transformed his lance back into a mace and started smashing at the elves around him. The gem on his gauntlet glowed slightly as power flowed into him, his already impressive strength enhanced beyond human capacity. It was as if he were a storm going through chaff. The She fell before his mace, their armor crumpling under the spikes of the heavy weapon. Smiling despite himself, Camul let his battle fury lead the way as he fought his way through to the other side. Abruptly, Farah and her cavalry burst through the She on the other side, green fire blasting outward from her, causing the She to run from her. their flesh rotting away from their bones as the flames devoured their bodies as if they were made of wax. Farah pulled up next to him as the she began to flee, their resolve broken by the Azrith's assault. Before they could get far, however, an army of wild beasts charged from where they'd been concealed in their hills, their eyes glowing with an ethereal blue-green light. She and their horses screamed as they were quickly torn apart by either the animals or by the Olintians and Braithen warriors. Mora's work, Camul thought, then nodded to Eleran. The younger soldier returned the nod before raising his banner and waving above his head. The signal given, the Braithen and Olintian cavalry reformed and began riding as fast as they could toward the gap in the mountain walls. As the human army began to advance, the beasts that Amora had called rushed out in front of them. As the army of Braithen and Olintia advanced, Amora reached down and dominated every animal she could get her hands on. Large beasts like the Karamar, some of the behemoths she kept in reserves, as well as lesser predators like wolves, mountain lions, bears, and even a few smaller cats, flocked to her and charged into the rear of the she and deep ones, their teeth and claws searching for where the human being's armor couldn't protect them. Many died, each one sending a bolt of pain through Amara, but as she continued pushing them into the battle, ignoring the pain. "They're here," she muttered, flinching as another one of her thralls died. Corafir nodded and closed his fist, the rings on his fingers glowing orange. Green ghosts appeared and charged out over the battlements, going down the walls as if they were on level ground and smashing into the she, assaulting the fortification. "The signal is given." His sword appeared out of smoke in his hand as horns sounded from the other fortresses in the castle. One united effort. Final gamble. Mora nodded to her, but her friend had fallen into the Umbriel and flew toward where the she had lined up in preparation to take on the Olintian defenders. Now that the attack was in effect, Amora unleashed the next piece of her offensive. Birds flew down from the mountains and smashed into the she and deep ones, forcing them to raise their shields and defend against the avian attack. However, before they could do more than distract the enemy, her birds exploded into pieces. "They have druids!" she called, right as a wave of fire consumed the first few ranks of Olintians, and several men fell to the ground, clutching their heads as blood trickled from their ears. Reacting quickly, Urafir closed his fist and summoned even more ghosts to charge into the she, breaking their ranks and causing the invisible hand of death to back away. Right as the assault from the druids slackened, screams and other sounds of alarm sounded from the mouth of the maw. Camul had attacked the she from behind. "I'll deal with the druids," Urafir remarked, slipping into the Umbriel. "You lead the troops." "Wait, what?" Amora blanched, unable to process why in the world he would do that. She had no time to question further. A wave of power smashed her in the front ranks of Olintia's back, causing her control over her beast to vanish for a moment. Quickly, she reasserted her control, then caused the mice in the area to swarm over the back ranks of she and start devouring them like a wave of locusts. Screams accompanied the attack, the she and the deep ones breaking ranks and slashing at their diminutive attackers. This opened up the ranks for the Olintians to break into their formation and begin advancing through the enemy. Absently, she looked around for Kurthir, only vaguely able to make out a shape in black and green shoot in and out of the Umbriel, blade caked in liquid green fires he cut down whatever she or deep one was in his path. Flesh wadded and burned at the same time, and whenever the blade made contact, a putrid smell filling the air. "Keep moving forward!" Amora hacked a she warrior in half, amazed at her own strength, and suited words to actions. And then I'll call it.
Exciting. Get to the killing.
Mm-hmm.
Getting cut straight to the point, even.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very actiony. Very nice. A very nice little fantasy battle. Quite creative, even.
Yeah. A world of blood and horror sounds bad. I think wiping out people who will bring that about is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At least that's what they believe these people want.
Oh, you mean it's not true? I mean, it's not propaganda, is it?
Well, I'm pretty sure it is.
I mean, they had to get the men to fight somehow.
Like, wow.
Yeah,
I'm so disillusioned.
indeed.
Quite interesting that he said all that, and even then, he's not quite sure.
Oh,
That was a little
I'm
detail that I
100%.
noted that I quite liked.
Yes.
Yeah, he's he believes it, and we have seen that these magical artifacts are messing with their brains. They can't, and they're starting to lose certain aspects of their ability to tell right from wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Quite
did have an
interesting.
interesting little conversation about the devices early on,
Mhm.
and I like the the animals attacking them.
Yeah, I was very disappointed with Game of Thrones' lack of utilizing Bran's actual interesting abilities.
Oh, you mean when he warged the ravens and the raven just I don't even remember. Did they spy on someone, or did they just do nothing at all?
He's basically the fantasy version of a CCTV.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's probably just watching Littlefinger's brothel all day.
It must
Oh,
be a
yeah.
riot.
Yeah, I concur, Balerion. It truly must be a riot.
Oh yeah. What was I gonna say about oh yeah. Mice can be pretty scary. Well, if you're an elephant, they are. Supposedly elephants are supposedly scared of mice, but
Honestly, after all the things I learned about elephants, I find that hard to believe.
yeah.
They probably look at them like we look at mosquitoes.
But
Hmm.
but the comic books said that the elephants were scared of mice. That's what the comic books said.
And you believed them?
Of course.
Well, I have about as much trust in a comic book as I do about the recent news or news channels. But that says more about my mistrust of news channels than it does my trust in comic books.
Hmm. So
So, it's more the element of surprise than the mouse itself.
Hmm.
Mice might climb on their trunks. There's no evidence to support the claims. Yeah, they're more likely to be afraid of honeybees.
Oh yeah, those little bastards.
Yep.
oh, it's a pity the comic books didn't say that. That would have been way cooler.
Yeah.
No, not the bees. Anything but the bees. Ah, ah,
Yeah,
no,
a bunch of a bunch of demon bees in a comic book would
Bees.
attack
My
him.
God.
Beesbury, as Glidus likes to say,
Mhm.
or he used to like to say. No one gets that except probably Blipe Blipe.
Now,
Yeah.
a little secret I'm going to let you all in on. Whenever I'm listening to you guys present, I am also painting. It is probably to help me stem my ADHD because I have issues troubling. God damn it, mixing my words. I have issues. I struggle with paying attention when doing nothing. So, yeah.
I'm taking
yeah.
notes to an empty text document while I listen.
Very
I'm
interesting.
usually,
Helps
I'm
me, it helps me contribute.
Yep, I'm usually wandering around doing chores or else, as you know, eating.
So,
Yeah.
so I didn't know this, but apparently there are full episodes of Mythbusters just on YouTube.
Damn.
I
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks like they have just started putting all of their stuff on YouTube.
That's actually it's actually pretty neat, you know? Very useful material in there.
Yeah, I'll have to.
I mean, it is Mythbusters, you know?
Yeah, like 9 seasons of Mythbusters are all on YouTube.
I think Bill Nye put his catalog on YouTube as well.
I know. I believe Yu-Gi-Oh did the same.
Yeah.
With us.
And Father Ted too. Yeah, if you really want to learn how to do a good Irish accent, Father Ted is the series to watch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reason why I initially mentioned the fact that I was painting at all is because I actually just applied 2 different types of green to a vine, and I am starting to see just exactly how fucking colorblind I am, because the first green that I applied was a darker green, and I applied a lighter green next to it, and I noticed that my eyes are starting to register the darker green as brown instead of green. Thank you, red-green colorblindness, the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, that must be a riot.
This is why I also infamously cannot distinguish blue from purple or purple from blue, is because I literally cannot see the color red.
Wow.
I mean, I can see red, obviously, but I have an extreme deficiency in red cones. Like, I have basically none.
Yeah, that must be. I don't know. That must be weird.
It is kind of weird, looking at something that's very clearly purple, but saying, oh, that's blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or looking at something that's a rusty color and saying, oh, that's orange. What? No, it says brown. It says brown right on the thing. It was like, no, but it's orange.
Yeah. I have that same problem with red versus carmine versus crimson versus scarlet versus what the blazes even is salmon. I don't know.
Salmon's just a way for guys to wear pink without being accused of being gay.
But
Real men wear pink.
Yeah, but if you're wearing something with a weird color name, then that makes you gay too.
Knowing the name of the specific color makes you extremely gay. So, oh shit, wait. No, that means I'm gay now.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh shit, am I gay? Oh sweet, I can,
Oh, no.
I can ask out my best friend. I've had a much better relationship with that guy than any other girl I've dated. Seriously, this is actually going to make things... Oh wait, no, I'm still straight. Fuck!
That was starting to be a
I
romantic
was so happy
moment.
for a moment.
There was such a romantic moment in the story for half a second.
I know, right?
Yeah. So
is that you up next then?
I'm up next. And I might end up reading this entire story. It depends.
Well, that's entirely up to you, Balerion.
We'll see how long it takes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the chapters are pretty short. Let's see. So this is Daradina's Lord of the Rings fanfic. Like, wow. Like,
Oh, God.
dudes. Yes.
God,
Like,
no, please help us.
Oh god, are the communist rabbits back?
this is actually the prequel to the Communist Rabbits.
Oh, God.
This is the first.
Is it the
Mr.
Chartist rabbits?
This is
Or
the
the True
first-
Levelers rabbits?
This is the first in that series of parodies.
The what rabbits?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of different precursors to the communist movement throughout history.
Well,
Maybe
no, that's exactly what because I'm actually kind of curious about that. Oh, wait, which, how many precursors were there?
Zillions. It's an ancient idea.
Dating all the way back to Plato and his Republic.
I mean, if you want to be absolutely technical, it's how, a family works or just a tribe works. So it could be as old as hunter-gatherers itself. But we're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Anyways, Boomer, let's hear what you got.
Daradina's Lord of the Rings fanfic. Like, wow. Like, dudes, this is my fanfic on Lord of the Rings. It totally rules and got it hundreds of awards and was named Scholarly Publication of the Year. OMG, WTF, LOL, exclamation mark. Pardon me. But to be honest, it's not my best work. I got others way better than this. But this is totally foundational text in the field, dudes. Can't read. Let's see. Okay, chapter 1. Chapter 1. Like, I'm totally cool. Deridina was like watching a DVD of Fellowship of the Rings, and it was like a magic video, you know? Because positivism's paradigm is so last millennium. LOL! Exclamation mark! And got pulled into Middle Earth and stuff. OMG, WTF! Exclamation mark? Question mark? She was watching it to like get over her angst. LOL. Whether to conform to patriarchal standards of beauty or not, in a real bad hair day. Okay? OMG? Question mark? Question mark? That's a value judgment, dudes. And Diridina got pulled into the bit where Gandalf tells Frodo to flee and stuff. Can I come along? She said. No, said Gandalf. Girls are stupid. Shut up, old man, said Diridina. I'm a reincarnation of a half vampire because Buffy is real cool and half elf because elf hair rules. Can anyone recommend a good hairspray named Brittany Vampiriel who lived forever? Get an LOL, WTF, OMG, exclamation, blah, blah, blah. More and more powerful and stuff? Question mark, blah, blah, blah. And both elves and vampires banned me because I wouldn't wear dresses, because they're patriarchally objectifying, and because I was a hybrid and like Britney Spears and no elf ever wears black, and I did because I was cool and stuff, and I learned magic from Isis and have a real cool pet unicorn named Nintendo and stuff. OMG, WTF, question, blah, blah, blah. And all this is true because we construct truth and recurse as we make our identity through narrating. And that's what I narrated. So I'm coming whether you want me or not, oldie. And you're not even good looking. And I am. So there, LOL, exclamation mark. Yikes, I'm hurting my voice. I don't think she should, said Sam. Let her, said Frodo. It's everyone's job to build tomorrow. Pardon me, that's chapter 1. Let's see what happens next chapter. Sorry, I have to click on each chapter separately. Chapter 2. I rocks. They went and got chased by black riders. Eek, they're evil, said everyone. But Vampiriel had gained much wisdom and stuff from long years. LOL, WTF. And knew essentialism's crap. So she said, maybe no one was ever nice to him. He deserves tomorrow. So she gave the rider some bubblegum and he turned good. They met Aragorn and Arwen and both fell in love with Vampiriel because she was beautiful and had elf hair and pale vamp skin and dressed cute and had a great voice, and all the kids envied her. I love you, said Arwen. Does that make me a lesbian? WTF, LOL, OMG, exclamation mark, meaning to say is so debated among theory people, girl, said Vampiriel. You watch these guys, said Vampiriel to Nintendo and Black Rider. I have a mission. And she rescued Gandalf from Saruman, so they didn't need the moth, but thought it was cute. So they adopted it and LOL and called it Mothy, you know? A monster called Bombadil attacked and sang real badly, but Nintendo killed it. And that's chapter 2.
Man, we're flying through these things.
Yeah, we kind of are. Chapter 3.
I do love a good bit of insanity.
Chapter 3. I'm great for a social construct. We can't let the blacks ride her in, said the elves at Rivendell. It's time for elves to stop being prejudiced. He's cool, said Vampiriel. They met Elrond, and he looked nasty at Aragorn and said, mortals suck. Don't be mean, said VD. He's going to build tomorrow. I love you, said Aragorn. She's mine, said Frodo. No, mine, said Sam. No, mine, said Gandalf. No, mine. OMG, blah, 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 said Arwen. No, mine, said Black Rider. No, mine, said Nintendo. No, mine, LOL, WTF, blah, 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 said Morthy. No, mine, said the elves, especially Figgy. XOXOXOXO. From her question mark? Long wisdom, and the spelt WIZDUMB, and the teachings of Isis and Kristeva, she knew this quarrel was stupid, so she told them to share, but not all at once, because that's squick. Elrond, WTF, LOL, OMG, exclamation mark, bleh, noticed her and said, you're not wearing a dress, that's bad. Don't objectify me, old man, said Vampiriel. Your paradigm is like totally obsolete. WTF. I'm suffering a lot of OMG exclamation mark angst because people always try to make me wear a dress and it's sexual abuse. Question mark LOL. And I was banned by the elves for wearing black and listening to Britney Spears and because they envied my strange powers of raising WTF exclamation the dead and being totally cool, and because elves are like so not even structuralist. They hardly even got as far as Jakobson. And by vampires, because I walked among the living and had way cool elf hair and was more powerful than the Valors or even Peter Jackson. And because like nobody reads vampire theory. And they were jealous. So prosecuted her just like they persecuted Galileo, Darwin, and Eminem. But I knew there would be tomorrow, so I triumphed, so I will lead the quest. And I gotta admit, this bit's kind of second wave, but I still think it's cool. Pardon me. I'm in charge here and will decide, said Elrond. Let her lead, said Gandalf. She's bringing us a better tomorrow. That's because he's a corporate hegemon. Everyone bowed his head at this wisdom and retched. Whips. Okay, WTF. Now everyone listen up, said Daradina. First we go to Moria, then Lorien, so I can get it on with Haldir, and then we best Saruman, who's evil, you know. Not that I'm doing value judgment. WTF, LOL, OMG, blah, 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 blah. And then we go to Mordor and beat Sauron, and Aragorn is king. Gondor has no king. Gondor needs no king. WTF, said Boromir, who is kind of a jerk. You owe him your allegiance for a better tomorrow, said Daradina. That's a really original thing I just said, but the cult of originality is so dead anyways. Boromir recognized her wisdom and stuff. WTF, LOL, OMG, blah, 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 exclamation mark, blah, and said, I used to hate you, but now I love you. Okay, you can have a turn after Figgy and Orly, said Vampiriel, and everyone wondered at her great wisdom. Let's see. So she led the company and put everyone through 12-step programs so they learned their inner selves and stuff. WTF? Question mark? Let's see. Oh. How long have I been talking?
Please stop. In full honesty, though, like as an actual critique, I just think that at the end is completely unnecessary. We don't really need that. Like, it's already incoherent as it is, Balerion. We don't need to put literal incoherent and rambling noises in there.
Well, I couldn't read all the exclamation marks. It would take too long.
Okay. I mean, I'll leave that up to you, but I'm just letting you know that we do not need the actual thoughts of the protagonist read aloud.
But that's the whole story.
Whole thing from beginning to end.
That's
The joke. The joke is that is her actual thoughts. Incoherent.
Well, you know, what can you expect from and pardon the word, from a Lisbon?
God damn. Said that like he was a slur.
I know, right?
Does that make me
Now a Porto or a Madrid I could understand, but a Lisbon? Well, it's absolutely disgraceful.
What about Braga?
I don't suppose I'm opposed to one of those. Just so long as they don't rub it in my face.
All right. Fair enough.
Now the Italians, they can rub it in my face all day.
No comment.
Also, for anybody who is interested, Warner Brothers is currently selling off a bunch of games on Steam for 80 to 90% off.
Let's see. I wonder how many more chapters are left of that. Am I? Let's see. How many chapters are there in total in this thing? Let me just check. Oh, only 8 chapters. So that's the halfway point. Okay, good.
Awesome. Well, I think that calls it good. I think tomorrow we will be watching the remaining 4 inside the episodes for frickin' Rings of Power.
Mm.
The simulations, the war, it's finally over.
Yeah. At least until season 3 comes out. And
there will not be a season 3.
Why?
Did you see how they
already
renewed it?
They've renewed it to season.
Well, I'm telling you this much right now. Season 3 is going to be the last one then. Ain't nobody's watching that.
Okay, so they have not, while they have not officially announced it, it is likely it'll be renewed. The executive producer said that there's good news for a 3rd season. Showrunners Payne and McKay are working on a 3rd season. Morford Clark says season 3 is going to happen. Hollywood Reporter says that they're on the verge of renewing the show for a 3rd season. It's also some cost fallacy. LSC, they've had a massive number drop from 150 to 55 million, which is not very good. But at this point, they're currently planning it, but I don't know. It is okay. It looks like it's on the verge of renewal. Like, they spent so much money on it. Like, what else are they going to do? If they cancel the show now, it will be admitting failure. And I don't know if Amazon really is willing to do that. They also don't have to worry about costs in the similar fashion that something like Disney does, because they have a monopoly.
I mean, they can go ahead and keep wasting money, keep throwing it down the drain, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll call it good. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, they can feel free to make their streaming service a actual sink that is entirely unprofitable and is actually costing them money.
Well, the problem is they basically make so much money from shipping that it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
All right.
Oh, well.
We'll call it good for today. Adios, friends.
All right.
See you, everyone.